Google, big deal. You know, sure, he, what else has he done? He went to Duke, got his MBA. Wow, that's awesome. I want to say he's a wonderful guy. And what I always ask the storytellers to tell me something that is true about them, that people, if they knew them, might be surprised that that's not mostly true, that is true. So if you can believe it, this guy just went to a strip club, not just went, sorry. This guy once went, wow, I'm going to get him in so much trouble. Once went to a strip club with James Franco. Everybody, Ben Treder! That's a good height for you.
True. So a few years ago, I was at an MBA party with my business school friends. There's something you need to know about business school people. They're real intense, type A. They're always outdoing each other. And so in walks my friend. And she says, hey, I just signed up for the New York City Marathon Lottery. Closes at midnight. Who's in? Immediately my palms are sweating. My heart starts beating. And so, you know, something you need to know about me growing up. So my dad had always run marathons. So we used to go around Washington, D.C., Boston, New York to go see him run. And so marathons are just something that I grew up around and I always wanted to do. And he used to tell me, he's a physicist and he's a part-time philosopher, and he used to tell me, the physical struggle of a marathon is only eclipsed by the mental endurance it takes to finish the race. And so in my head, I'd be climbing Mount Everest without ever leaving the ground. And so I really wanted to take on this challenge. Additionally, my wife, Chrissy, and I had just finished a half marathon a few months before, so half marathon, full marathon, you know, no big difference. And then additionally, it was New York. So I was getting my MBA in North Carolina, soon moving to Michigan, but we're both from New Jersey, and so this would be a bit of a homecoming. Biggest marathon in the country, 50,000 people, 5 boroughs, you know about the New York City Marathon. So we go home, and I sign up for the marathon, and I convinced my wife to sign up too. And so weeks go by, I forget about signing up, I forget about the party, open up my email. Congratulations, you've been entered. My heart starts racing, my palms are sweating, and I'm like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? So first I check to see if my wife got in, of course. She did not get in. It's tough to get into the lottery, but she decided to raise money for a cystic fibrosis fund. So she raised $4,000, and so we're both in. And so now we have to train. And so first time marathon training is really broken up into 2 parts. So before your 20-mile run and after your 20-mile run. And your 20-mile run is around the 3-week mark before the marathon. And so each week you just kind of build up endurance, you run farther and farther until you get to that 20-mile race. And any seasoned marathoner will tell you, if you run that 20-mile run, you'll be able to do 26.2 miles on Marathon Sunday. And so I'll never forget, I finished the 20-mile run, and I feel a little bit like Frodo, climbing the mountain, sees the Eye of Sauron in the distance. I've been on this journey, but the real journey is totally clear now. I totally know what's ahead of me, and so the next few weeks, I'm just thinking, I don't want to stub my toe, I don't want to touch any sharp objects, I don't want to sleep on the bed wrong, as long as I make it these next few weeks, I'll be fine. So about a week before the marathon, she shows up. That bitch shows up. Hurricane Sandy, remember her? So Sandy strikes on Monday, biggest superstorm to hit the East Coast in decades, and it's devastating. In my head, this is a non-issue. New York, millions of dollars have gone into this, months of planning. There is no way that this marathon is not happening in a week from today. Meanwhile, I turn on the news, and it's devastating. People are without homes, power's out, public transportation's down. There's a roller coaster in the middle of the ocean. But in my head, this is a non-issue again. And then I talked to some people on the ground. So I talked to my aunt on Tuesday, and she's like, it's not looking good. I don't think I'll be able to make it in for the marathon. I talked to my buddy on Wednesday. We're trying to find a place where he can meet up with me. And he says, tonight I rode he lives in the West Village. He's like, I rode my bike home under the light of the stars. There's no power in any of downtown. And again, I'm being reassured over and over again by Mayor Bloomberg, who keeps saying, the race is on. And so, you know, I'm kind of focused. And so, going into, it's Friday, and I'm finishing up work, and I get a text message. And it's my brother-in-law, Doug, and he says, hey man, sorry to hear about the race. Now, you gotta know something about Doug. He's usually a little late to the party. And so I just assumed that he saw some of those previous rumors and so I was like, nah man, it's cool, the race is still on, don't worry. And he goes, no, I just heard on the radio that it's canceled. And so I go online and I'm like, I gotta disprove this. You know, there's no way that this is true. So CNN doesn't have anything, Facebook has nothing. Go to New York Roadrunners, they have nothing. So I was like, oh, good. He's like totally misinformed, like always. And then, sorry, Doug. And then I was like, Twitter. Twitter will definitely have it. If it's been announced, it's New York, you know, it'll be announced on Twitter. So I go to Twitter, I search, and a few results come back. Some say it is, some say it isn't. I'm like, it'd be a lot more widespread than this. So I refresh the page, and now there's hundreds of results, and I refresh the page, and oh, cool, I see it now, thanks. So I'm basically in the middle of a movie now. I can't see straight. I have tunnel vision, my ears are ringing, I don't know what's going on. So I instinctively call my wife, and I was like, Chrissy, the marathon's canceled. What do you mean the marathon's canceled? That's totally crazy, I can't believe it. What are we gonna do? And so what are we gonna do? And you know, in hindsight, that's crazy. Like, what are we gonna do? Our marathon was canceled. You know, it's a totally selfish reaction. People are displaced from their homes. There's no power. There's no public transportation. And all I can think is, my stupid race has been canceled, and I can't fly to my nice hotel and eat some pasta and go run the race. And so, you know, this weekend was going to be the weekend that I run a marathon, and this weekend I am going to run a marathon. And so on my walk home, I decide we're going to run a marathon, and so we look online, and we basically take out a map, draw a radius around our house, and find any marathon that we can drive to. And so we did find one, and so the next morning we set out for the Road to Hope Marathon in Hamilton, Quebec. A wonderful, lovely little town. The two races, pretty much the only thing they have in common is they're actually both marathons. The New York Marathon, you start on the Verrazano Bridge, you run over this beautiful expanse, Frank Sinatra is singing to you, gunships are shooting water into the Hudson, millions of people are cheering you on, it's a huge party. The Road to Hope Marathon starts in the parking lot of the local Jewish Community Center. You make a right onto a farm road that leads to the parkway. But there's only 1,200 runners, so they only close one lane of the parkway. And so 18-wheelers are blowing by while I'm like getting in the zone, you know? So, but that's fine. The Parkway to Hope is what's going to happen this weekend because we needed to run our race. And so not soon after we finished, they announced that anyone that signed up for 2012 got guaranteed entry into 2013's New York Marathon. So I say, okay, we're going to do it. So we sign up, pay our fees again, start our training plan. And I'm feeling pretty good. This is, again, before this I'd only run a half marathon, so I'm getting more endurance, I'm getting more speed, and so I'm thinking to myself, if this could be a better marathon than 2012 ever could have been, I'll be able to focus on the race, I'll be able to think about what's going on, and so I'm really getting excited for it. And so I finished my 20-miler, again, climb over the mountain, focused on the marathon, focused on running the race. And so then my next training run around mile 10 or 11, I feel something like right in here. I figure it's nothing, do some extra stretches, take some ibuprofen, I'll be fine. My next run I feel it at mile 8. My next run I feel it like mile 2. So I'm like, okay. So I go to a physical therapist, and he checks me out, and he can feel some scar tissue, and he's like, you know, there's something going on, I don't know what it is. I have no idea how your leg's going to hold up over a 3.5-hour race. And so now it's like, I don't know, a week before the marathon, same as last year. And so I'm like, 2 years in a row, am I not going to be able to run the race? And so then I start thinking, what am I going to do? What are my options? And so I realized that when I ran slower, it felt fine, and I could kind of run through it. There wasn't really a lot of pain. And so again, my wife and I were signed up, and she ran at a slightly slower pace. And so we decided we could run the race together. And so we could kind of enjoy and kind of experience all of New York together, and it would really be a relationship test that very few married couples get to go through. So, you know, I'd be like running, hey hon, how you doing? That doesn't help. Don't talk to me. And then like later in the race, hey hon, there's a water stop coming up. Do you want some water? Just give me some water and stop talking to me. But in all fairness, it was, I mean, you know, she's running a full marathon as fast as she can, and I'm running at a much slower pace, and so I'm just like, you know, all excited. So, you know, but in hindsight, it was really, it's a cool experience. You know, that physical piece, less than 1% of the population does it, and it's really was a big accomplishment. But as you're going through the race, again, my wife's mad at me, not mad at me, but she doesn't want me talking to her, so I'm not talking to her, and I'm, you know, as I remember running over the 59th Street Bridge, it's a mile 15 or 16, it's actually mile 14 and a half to like mile 16 and a half, it's a big expanse. And so there's no noise because there's no crowd on the bridge. And I'm thinking, you know, that mental piece that my dad was talking about really was the big challenge. And it was that piece that actually made it an exciting and, you know, the journey that I went on.